Good morning, noon, or night, whenever and wherever you are listening to The Shift. I'm your host. My name is Doug McKenty. This episode was recorded on March 9th, 2022. My guest on the show today is targeted individual Viorel Serb. His recent book, The Battle for Your Brain, Psychological Warfare, describes his decade-long experience enduring unending personal attacks coming from seemingly unrelated sources. Though at first he attributed these occurrences to coincidence, eventually an unmistakable pattern emerged, causing Viorel to look deeper into the phenomena of what it means to be targeted. What he discovered was an active group of online activists all claiming a similar experience. Not only does the harassment include physical abuse, such as verbal harassment from strangers, attacks on personal reputation, constant surveillance, and other forms of what is known as GangStalking, but there are other more subtle forms of emotional abuse as well. These include low-frequency electronic attacks that can make a person physically or mentally ill, and even the use of voice-to-skull technology, which literally make the victim hear voices inside their own head. Ultimately, these tactics are meant to make the victim appear crazy. Indeed, the symptoms are similar to those afflicted with paranoia or schizophrenia. But the sheer volume of those claiming to be targeted, now numbering in the hundreds of thousands or even millions of individuals, lends credence to the notion that some outside entity is engaging in this subtle form of psychological warfare. Though it sounds far-fetched to those who have not experienced this abuse, Viorel lists literally dozens of patents proving that companies tied to the military-industrial complex are working on technologies designed specifically to induce these types of reactions within the human mind. According to Viorel, these attacks are not limited to one country alone, but must be part of a vast international network potentially spreading across the globe. He has personally experienced consistent harassment across the continent of Europe and beyond. Perhaps most frustrating to victims is this inability to pinpoint who is responsible. The seemingly random but constant abusive behavior implies a central organization orchestrating the attacks, but the decentralized and clandestine nature of the targeting makes it impossible to ascertain exactly who is ultimately responsible. In this conversation, Viorel will describe his experiences as a targeted individual, how he came to the realization that he was being targeted, the different types of harassment he has endured, as well as his own theories about just who is perpetrating the abuse and why they are doing it. You can find out more or contact Viorel on Facebook or YouTube at GangStalking Attention Awareness. Attention has 2 A's. Or follow Viorel G. Serb on his personal Facebook page. You can also find his book, The Battle for Your Brain, on Amazon. If you want to find out more about The Shift, you can find me at Doug McKenty on Facebook, at DMcKenty on Twitter, or go to www.theshiftnow.com for hours of free content, to sign up for the newsletter, or subscribe for feature-length versions of the episodes. If you like what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast throughout your social media networks. We rely on listeners like you for distribution of this alternative content. Without further ado, I'd like to thank Viorel Serb for agreeing to this interview, and thank you for helping to make the shift. Hey everybody, and welcome to this 112th episode of The Shift. I'm your host, Doug McKenty. I am joined today by Viorel Serb. He is a targeted individual. This is a topic that I haven't really covered in the past. I'm hoping to get more and more into not just this topic, but the whole concept of psychological warfare in general, because I think it's so, it just pertains so much to what seems to be happening in the world, no matter what the issue is. But Viorel had written this book, The Battle for Your Brain, Psychological Warfare, and it piqued my interest, and it turned out that he's deeply involved in the targeted individual situation, as he has been targeted himself, and I wanted to have him on to explain what that is and what his experiences are. It's a really difficult topic to have a conversation about, actually, because so many of the people just sound like they're crazy, but when you get enough of them together and they all have similar experiences, you start to have to ask yourself, what is really going on here? So I'll let Viorel introduce himself, and then he's got a little bit of an introduction here about his book and about his experiences, and we'll go from there. Hey, Viorel, how's it going? You're in Poland right now.
Hi, my name is Viorel Serb. I'm born in Romania. I'm in Poland at the moment in holidays, and I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak about this topic.
Sure.
This is my book. I don't know if you can really see it.
Yeah.
It's about GangStalking and targeted individuals. It mainly covers the technology part of GangStalking and tactics and techniques. There is more to it. I was thinking and I'm researching into the psychological part, like the involvement of psychiatric industry to it, and the wrongly diagnosed people as crazy or mentally ill or schizophrenic.
Right.
But as a whole new book, a whole new topic, I won't talk about that. I'll just mention it here and there. When we are ready, I can start with the presentation.
Sure. Do you want to just let people know how long, just give them a little bit of your backstory in terms of how long you've felt that you've been targeted, and maybe just a brief overview about what your experiences are, how you figured it out, what it is, and then we can kick in the screen share?
Basically, when it starts, it's confusing. You don't know what's going on. And you kind of start realizing that something is not right when people are are kind of repeating the same sentences or the same numbers, or giving you hints that I know what you searched on the search engine, or I know your plans, I know what you're up to. And it's kind of the loss of privacy. It's the first hint of being a targeted individual, if you can call it that way, or a non-consensual human experimentee. For me, it started like 10 years ago, more or less. It started roughly in the same time after I got divorced. I got married very young and divorced very young, and everything started like after. It started to be like what I said, kind of the loss of privacy and kind of the reputation, the ruining of the reputation, and the bullying at work, bullying at home. Like, I used to live in London, and I lived in a shared house. So basically me and a bunch of other friends, we rented a whole house, and then we shared a room for each, and then we shared the cost, because the cost of living in London is pretty high. So it started over there. In London is where I met my ex-wife, where I kind of married her, where I divorced her. So the whole romantic part started there. And then after I divorced her, I was still young. I was still like 24, 25 years old. And then I was starting to get on with my life, but instead of my life going upwards, my life started going downwards. Like, people started to bully me in my workplaces. People starting to, like I said, give me hints of what I'm thinking, even what I'm thinking. Like, I was thinking something at night. I'm like an overthinker. Until things doesn't connect and don't make any sense to me, I just can't, sleep. And then people started giving me hints like what I was thinking during the night. I mean, before I went to sleep. So it was a bit disturbing. I didn't pay attention because I had, old friends, so we might have all things in common. So I was just like, okay, just let it go. It might happen. But all this, they call them, I can't find my words, coincidences. So all these coincidences started to intensify and intensify and intensify. And after a while, when they start to set you up, they start to sabotage you, they start all that, then you start to realize, wait, it's not just coincidences, it's something really going on. I was even at a point where I wasn't taking any drugs. And at some point, one of my friends, former friend, because we're not friends anymore, called me and he said, if you want to kill yourself, you can do it either opiates overdose, or you can hang yourself. like out of the blue. And funny, few days or weeks, whatever later, I didn't feel very well, and I had a drug test. Bought from eBay, the one which looks like this, a urine test. And I took a urine test, and I had opiates in my system without taking any medication. And
wow.
anything. So yeah, things started getting very bad, and then even to the point where I was sent to the psychiatrist, but I was like years later. And I realized that I'm not crazy, and I came across a video on YouTube. The name of the video is GangStalking Program Explained. And when I saw that video, like it started to connect the dots. And then my research started. That was about 8 years ago when my research started. And since then, almost every day, I'm watching videos, I'm reading about it, and I'm trying to connect the dots.
Right.
And, in 2020, I kind of put all the dots together, and I wrote my book. And at this point, it's everything for me is not. It doesn't have a great impact on me anymore. When I hear them harassing me, or I hear them saying something or doing something, it's just like, okay, whatever. I got used to it. They still harass me, and they still try to make me crazy, especially now that I'm doing interviews.
Yeah.
They're more intense than usual, but I'm not affected anymore. So kind of I became immune to it, if you can call it that way. And because I became immune to it, and I feel like talking to people on Facebook or on social media is not enough, and I want to educate more and more people, I decided to start doing interviews. So that's why I'm here today with you.
Right.
And I want to thank you again for the opportunity
to
educate the general public about it.
Right. Just to give people an overview, what people like you are experiencing is called gang stalking, essentially. And it seems like there's a lot of people involved in this, and they're targeting certain individuals, which they just essentially engage in all manners of emotional abuse that you describe in your book. And it seems so strange because it is, initially it seems like a coincidence, and then it starts to feel more and more like a coordinated attack. And now there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who complain about this. I mean, it's become a pretty widespread phenomenon. And when you get together with these other people, you can corroborate your experiences. A lot of people are having these very similar experiences. And so it seems coordinated. Now there's evidence, just to set up your intro, evidence that government agencies are participating, and they're using all of this high-tech equipment that can actually get inside your brain, voice-to-skull technologies. I've done a couple of interviews with Alana Freeland, who's written some books on the big picture of this, but I wanted to interview you as an individual who's actually had this experience of being targeted specifically. So why don't we check out what you've got in terms of this introduction that you've put together, and then we can go from there, because it's I just want to make sure the audience can kind of follow and understand what's going on if they haven't been introduced to this concept before.
Yes, let's do that. I did put quite some information into that presentation, so let's hope the public will be able to understand what's going on. I'm going to share the screen now. 1 second, because I'm doing it wrong. Wait, what's going on? Can you see my screen now?
No, it's not coming up.
It is not. 1 second, let me do it again. Share.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Great. So here we are. Start the slideshow. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to last about 15 to 20 minutes, I guess. Maybe a bit more. Let's start with the beginning. This is my book that I wrote, and this is the introduction that I prepared for this introduction. So my question is, how do you explain a program that is designed to make you look and sound crazy when you try to explain it without looking and sounding crazy? Yes, so I'm going to try to do that now. Do you hear me? Do you see me? Everything is okay?
Yep, looking good.
Good. We are going to start. So in the first part, I'm going to start with the tactics and techniques, more like the psychological part of it. So from my research, this is what came up. Ashkenazi Jews, the Zionists, aka the Kabbalists, the Nazis, the people who are running the show. As people also know them as the Illuminati. So these people used to live in somewhere around Russia many years ago, roughly 100 years ago. And everything started basically with them. They used to use this kind of tactics and techniques used in today's GangStalking. So basically what they did was they carried pictures of people they didn't like, or pictures of people they were against them, and they basically made a smear campaign and showed those pictures to the communities, to the police, to every person related to that person, the person they targeted. So, and then they lied about a person, saying that that person is a racist, it's a pedophile, a witch, aggressive, dangerous, whatever, lies they could come up with. And they offered to help, punish those bad people, when in fact they were the bad people. So this action plan, if you can call it this way, at the beginning, was designed to isolate the person and to completely destroy it. Yes, so I said it before, this happened even before they moved to Germany. Actually, they were forced to move to Germany by the Tsar of Russia. The Tsar of Russia kind of had enough of them and got rid of them. So German people are and were Germans nowadays, haters and ignorant people know them as Nazis, when in fact Nazi comes from the Ashkenazi Jews. So this is a bit of question. What I have is, do you all see what I see? Ashkenazi Jews, Nazis. So basically the Jews were the bad people in Germany, not the Germans. Okay, let's start with the second slide. So after they arrived in Germany, they have infiltrated the government and all of the government institutions, including the Stasi Police. In the Stasi Police, their old action plan with the picture was called Zerzetruk. I did put some, highlighted some text in red, which is kind of important part. So pay attention to this part. So the Stasi was founded in 1950. So Zerzetzung, the tactic used by the Stasi Police. So German, it's pronounced Zerzetzung. I can pronounce German. Sorry for my bad pronunciation. So, which means in German decomposition and destruction. It was a psychological warfare technique used by the Ministry for Stasi Security, for state security, Stasi, like secret services, to repress political opponents in East Germany during the 1970s and 1980s. Zerzetzung served to combat alleged and actual dissidents through covert means, using secret methods and abusive control and psychological manipulation. And here is with that, to prevent anti-government activities. So basically, after they infiltrated the government, everybody who went against them, they had to deal with the Stasi Police. So people were commonly targeted on a preventative basis, just like GangStalking today. You basically don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. So it's preventative. For political incorrect activities, they might have gone on to perform, and not on the basis of crime they have actually committed, which we see in today's GangStalking. Basically, many targeted have no idea why they are targeted and what's happening to them. The Zetung methods were designed to break down, undermine, and paralyze people behind the facade, I'm not sure if I pronounce that word correctly, of social normality in a silent repression. Sounds like today's GangStalking, which happened in the 1950s. So basically, we'll jump few episodes from the history of the psychological warfare and go to the Second World War and the Nazis. The conspiracy theorist people know that the Nazi scientists, the Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews scientists, were taken from Germany to USA. And then basically NASA was founded to host those Nazis, those scientists. So NASA formally opened for business on the 1st October 1958. The war ended in 1945. NASA was opened in 1958. NASA was founded as a cover-up organization for social engineering and mind control. That's what it was founded for. The only space NASA is exploring is the space inside of our heads. If we are looking at the FBI tactic called COINTELPRO, which had the same aim to disrupt domestic American political organizations. So I will start from the beginning. COINTELPRO it's called. Syllabic abbreviation derived from Counterintelligence Program. 1956. So the war ended in 1945. And in 1956, the Americans used the same tactics like the Germans for the same goal. It was a series of covert and illegal projects conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting domestic American political organization. It might have been designed to do that, but in today's world, citizens are getting targeted and are dealing with the same tactics and techniques used in COINTELPRO. The second project is the Project MKUltra. Was the code name for a covert CIA mind control and chemical interrogation research program run by the Office of Scientific Intelligence. The program began in early 1950s. 1945, the war ended, 1950s. Continuing at least through the late 1960s. Basically, according to some conspiracy theorists and some documents, the Project MKUltra never ended. It was just taken from the lab out into the public, which is known as today's GangStalking. Mm-hmm. And it uses United States citizens as its test subjects, targeted individuals. I have the source here, so I'm not just making this up. And then a short sentence, a short note. All mind control experimental programs started in the USA after World War II. And the import, if you can call it that way, of the so-called Nazi scientists. Next slide, technology. I'm going to play a short video to explain how the name is saying, evolution of technology, how it all started. This is mind control technology, and then we will, carry on from there.
Electronic mind control research is not new. A scientific milestone in this area came in the 1960s when Dr. Jose Delgado demonstrated remote control over a charging bull. By connecting a radio antenna to electrodes inserted into the bull's brain, Delgado proved that the animal's aggressive impulses could be thwarted by electronically manipulating the bull's muscle reflexes.
Do you realize the fantastic possibilities if from the outside we could modify the inside? Could we give messages to the inside? But the beauty is that now we are not using electrodes.
In recent years, Delgado has shown that the behavior of monkeys can be altered using low-power, pulsating magnetic fields. But in these experiments, there were no antenna implants.
Any function in the brain, emotions, intellect, personality, well, could be perhaps modified by this non-invasive technology.
Delgado's research has so far been limited to animals. But in the Soviet Union, a radio frequency, or RF device, has been used for over 30 years to manipulate the moods of mental patients.
More and more, we will be able to measure and understand how our brain cells function. Deciphering our consciousness is another question. But the experiments of Dr. Yang Dan have proved that in principle, it is possible to read and to understand the brain.
I didn't know that we started this thing again. So this is a digitized movie. We present this to the animal, and we record the activity of their visual neurons. And these electrical signals that we recorded from will travel through these cables.
She managed to tap the vision from the brain of a cat and to reconstruct what the cat sees onto a computer screen.
So this is a digitized movie. This particular movie is a short clip from Indiana Jones, I think.
Here we see the two images next to each other. On the left, the image that was shown to the cat. At the right, the image that is tapped out of the cat's brain.
The picture has a lot of random flickering, the noise. That's probably the noise of the actual neurons, because they sometimes fire spontaneous spikes. We consider those noise, but maybe they reflect something else, maybe the thoughts or something. But we can't distinguish that. So when we use all of those, thinking that they represent visual information, this is the reconstruction that we come up with.
It is the first time an image was tapped from a brain. It proves that we can read and understand the grammar of it. The face is recognizable, but I still can't avoid the impression that the face has something cat-like.
If we have algorithms that stimulate the right things and give it the right data, they could reprogram you in a way without you even knowing it. We call it hallucinating, right? But these would be controlled hallucinations run by algorithms. So you think you're in control of your own will, but it's actually some evil AI or evil people controlling everything we do, and we're more like zombies, you know? Like we think we're free and we're not actually free.
It is called the Sentient World Simulation. The program's aim, according to its creator, is to be a continuously running, continually updated mirror model of the entire planet, complete with billions of nodes representing every person on the Earth.
Targets and mind control victims have their minds linked up for life with conscious supercomputers, which send a steady stream of bidirectional, low-frequency electromagnetic radiation to the target's brain.
And what people have to realize is that these targeted individuals are basically the test stage for rolling all of this madness out to all 7 billion of us on this planet.
And this was a white paper put out by Purdue University in 2006, and the Sentient World Simulation, SWS, went live in 2007, which represents every person on the planet within this computer matrix as a node, and every node is given an avatar, an identifier. And that is real-time, 24/7 monitoring of every person on the planet. This is primarily, but not exclusively, facilitated by the adiabatic quantum computers produced by D-Wave Corporation.
At the time of initial reports on the program, there were only 62 country-level simulations being run by the US Department of Defense. These simulations grouped humans into composites, with 100 individuals acting as a single node. But already at that time, the US Army had used the systems to create a 1-to-1 level simulation of potential Army recruits.
It's the stuff of a Hollywood movie, but a group of veterans has filed a lawsuit against the CIA and US Army claiming that the government planted remote control devices in their brains. The claims relate to a government program at the US Army's Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland.
The ultimate aim would be to archive enough data on each individual to be able to make a computer model of everyone on the planet.
In the human genome, we have a finite in the hundreds of thousands of different genes across our species. And we mapped them out in the Human Gene Project. Well, now it's the Human Mind Project, the Global Brain Project. You know, President Obama just recently funded a whole bunch of scientists to decipher the mind. Well, our previous president, same thing, George Bush, said the same thing. They're trying to decipher every possible thought and uniqueness due to culture and language and whatnot.
And the goal is to make a cognitive model or map of the victim's brain. Ultimately, the system replicates and digitizes the will, intellect, and emotions, the soul of the targets, and downloads this back into the conscious computer.
Yes, conscious computer.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide. So we can have a bit of a chat, and then we can carry on with the presentation. So basically, from my point of view, it started as a hate crime, and it turned it into a plan for total control of the human body, mind, and the entire population. Welcome to the planet Earth. Welcome to the Zionistic New World Order and total control. So basically, this is, as you heard in the previous video, a mind control grid for every single person on this earth. That's why I want to talk about it, and that's why I'm trying my best to educate the public about it. I'm not doing this to complain that I'm a targeted individual and seek attention and seek, empathy from people, because I'm not on this planet to be saved. I'm on this planet to save. So that's why I put all this together, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. As you can see the text where it says it gets worse, actually it does, because this mind control grid, it's kind of out of the government's hands in a way. I'll explain it later after we watch the video, and it's out into the hands of some very bad people. Let's play the next video, and then we continue.
Okay.
The mind is boggled by the possibilities in terms of what this could be used for. The radio frequencies, microwave signals, the entire spectrum of radio frequencies can be used within a certain range to produce all sorts of different effects. So the way it works is a device broadcasts a radio frequency, let's say at an individual, and that radio frequency will hook up with the resonant frequency of the individual's mind or body, or in this case, DNA. And what happens is once the resonant frequency is found in the targeted individual and the broadcast frequency matches up with that resonant frequency, those two frequencies interlock, and they can be thought of as one frequency or one energy. And what happens is between the broadcast frequency and the individual that's receiving the broadcast frequency, once it's resonating, once they are resonating together, a super highway of frequency along which information can be sent is created. And so you can think of it just like fiber optic cables that you use to send signals over the internet that connect people to the internet. It's the exact same thing, only a wireless application of that. And so once you have connected the targeted individual with the frequency and they resonate together, then you have a perfect avenue upon which to send and receive information back and forth. And that's exactly how they manipulate someone's thoughts. They send voices into someone's head. They manipulate their emotions. They manipulate their behavior. And then that's also how they receive back from the individual in real time the vital signs, the emotions, the thoughts, what the person's seeing, what the person's hearing. And then all that information, of course, is rendered on a computer elsewhere via software, and it can be monitored and tracked in real time. it can literally stop your own thoughts from happening and replace them with other thoughts by sending thoughts to your head. And it's so sophisticated that you cannot tell where these thoughts are coming from. There's no way to discern that they are coming from somewhere other than your own mind. So you can imagine how bad this would be for people that don't even realize this technology exists. And they're having these thoughts, which they think are spontaneous, because being under the influence of this technology now, kind of having been on both sides of it, I am just amazed at the way it works. And I know that the thoughts that they beam into your head originate from the exact same place in your mind that your own natural thoughts originate from. So if I didn't know I was under the influence of this technology, then I would have no idea that anyone was influencing my thoughts at all. And that's exactly what it can be used for. It can be used to sway people in terms of their opinion, to make them go along with a certain agenda. It can be used to turn groups of people or individuals against each other for whatever purpose. And actually, this exact same technology can be used to not only influence the thoughts of someone, but also the voice box of someone. And it came to mind because you mentioned a politician. I heard that they actually used this on George Bush Jr. once, George W. Bush, when he was giving a speech because he could not remember his line.
William, to pronounce it in English without Romanian accent, William Edward Binney is a former intelligence official with the United States National Security Agency and whistleblower. In this slide, on his presentation, you can see the bottom right corner. You can see him with the screen. So he's basically saying that all these countries are partner, approved SIGINT partners. Why I posted this video here? Because I want to say something. I've traveled, work and travel, because I'm into travel. I was born to travel. I've been to roughly more or less 40 countries, and I've been harassed in all of them. So I've been to Canada, I've been harassed in Canada, I've been to United Kingdom, I've been harassed in United Kingdom, and then I'm just going to mention the rest of the countries. Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Singapore, Spain, Sweden, Turkey. So I've been to all these countries and I've been harassed to all these countries. So I can, in a way, say, yes, he's correct. We're going to play the next part of this video. In the next part, Brian Coffron, I cut the video in such a way so he can introduce himself. I mean, basically, he's introducing himself in his video, in his interview. But I left that part in this presentation so people can understand who he is and what work he has done. On the top of the video, you can see the titles of his interviews. So he has part 1 and part 2. So if anyone wants to listen to him, he can just go on YouTube and just type in these titles, and they can just go straight to my YouTube channel and listen. Now I'm going to just press play and let's play the second part. Okay.
They're a private security company that is headquartered in Culver City, California. And through a friend, I heard that SIS was hiring. I heard they were hiring for security specialists. And given my background in education, which is actually anthropology and sociology, most people don't see how those two connect. But by studying human beings, you can really do well within the intelligence industry and within the security industry, because it is all about learning how to deal with and talk to and communicate with, and ultimately, from our perspective, secure human beings. And so it was through friends and family that I learned about the opportunity. And I started off, like everybody else, as a low-level security guard, minimum wage. I worked my way up through the company over time, and eventually was assigned to executive protection and threat assessment, risk management. And just to tell you a little bit about that, what my official duties was to secure personnel, data, and property of VIPs that our company is hired to protect. So there's a whole lot of training that goes into that. And I became a security specialist for SIS, specializing in executive protection, also risk and threat assessment to our clients. Our clients are the companies or the individuals that we contract out with and provide services for. And it was in that context that I became aware of what I describe as a social engineering program and a research and development program that was being carried out by SIS and our clients in Seattle, the Amazon Corporation. And it was through moving up within the SIS hierarchy and working with more and more people as I was assigned to more and more assignments, I became aware of the existence of this program. And then little by little over time, I became aware of the extent of it. And it wasn't long before I realized how horribly out of control it was, how downright evil it was. Once I began to realize that SIS was experimenting on its own employees, my fellow security specialist, I was outraged. I later learned that my company was involved in a larger social engineering program that encompassed the entire city of Seattle. That aspect of the program was experimenting on the homeless population of Seattle, Washington, who were housed in DESC, Downtown Emergency Services Center facilities. And I later learned that they were indeed experimenting with, when I say experimenting, voice-to-skull, hive mind, behavior modification technology that is frequency-based and directed at a targeted individual to basically control their entire person. And it was by moving up even more that I realized that this experimentation was going on against the general population of Seattle. And then just the average man and woman on the street, upper class, upper class, and even the flat out rich were having this technology used on them without their knowledge. As more and more information and details of the program were made known to me, I became more and more outraged by it. And I spent a long time, because I had many friends within the security company. A lot of these people are great people. They're very good people. Not everybody involved in SIS is directly involved in experimenting on people. They're not all directly involved in gang stalking. I never was. I never partook in that. But I did partake in training that deals with tactics and protocols that are used normally for surveillance and counter-surveillance. But within that is all of the information and the know-how that you need to be able to gang stalk. And that is, in fact, what they are doing. And so over time, I became outraged, and I tried to play my cards right, wait for the right moment. And when I really just couldn't tolerate it anymore, when I found out just how out of control it was, I decided to object to my superiors in person. But within SIS specifically, what happens is they are experimenting on their own employees. So it's a long story. I'll try to get through it quick. But basically, people are selected from all over the country. We're talking other cities all over America. They are selected for many different reasons. Often it is because they are isolated. They don't have a lot of money, friends, or family. And they also tend to be people that are highly, highly intelligent. The aspects of this technology that they're interested in improving upon have to do with cognitive processes, processing information, and as a result, they want highly intelligent people to be targets of this program. They also tend to target people who are into what I would call alternative research, commonly called maybe conspiracy theories, people that disagree with the government, people that are into researching things like 9/11. Also, they are interested in people that are interested in technology. I have found a high percentage of targeted individuals to be people who either are interested in or have information on highly advanced technologies, usually having to do with directed energy weapons and frequency weapons, the exact kind of weapons that we're talking about here that are used in Voicetoskull, and behavior modification, the works. There's many other aspects to the technology. But once these people are selected, they will have the entire GangStalking / Voicetoskull program run against them. This is detailed in my article. But they will be organized stalk. They will have career sabotage programs run against them to ruin their job. They will have character assassinations campaigns run against them in their neighborhood. They'll be isolated from family and friends as those individuals are turned against them. And they will be isolated slowly over time using the technology itself, as many of the people freak out, understandably, when they at first don't know what it is. Oftentimes, they end up going to psychiatrists, and false diagnoses of schizophrenia, manic depression, delusional paranoid are rendered against this individual. And it turns out that that's a loophole in the law that they are using to take away people's constitutional rights, as once you are deemed mentally unfit to care for yourself, i.e. you're depressed, delusional, paranoid, etc., they use that, the state or the federal government uses that as an excuse to come in and say that they have to care for you. So I would warn all targeted individuals out there, please do not go to psychiatrists and allow them to render a diagnosis against you, because that is a dirty trick they're using to take away the rights of people all over the country.
Basically, yes. Let's go to the next part. So I did because this was one of the main reasons I kind of started to research the psychiatry industry. That's why I put this part into the presentation. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the most important, well, everything is important, but it's very important because, as you heard him say, these victims, targeted individuals, are labeled as crazy. So basically, these people are getting away with murder, theft, and much, 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 much more. So I will just talk about my short experience with a psychiatrist. Uh-huh. The same person who called me and told me that I can kill myself with opioids, mm-hmm. and or hang myself was the same person who told me, which I will say in this part here, but I will start at the beginning. So, yes, I did end this speech here because I have a short story to tell about the psychiatric industry. It's like a short introduction. It starts like this. One of them, when I say them, I'm referring to the GangStalkers, or you can call them simple Zionist, Illuminati, or Freemasons, pretty much the same thing, just different levels into their game. So one of them called my mom with a cloned phone number and a cloned voice of my brother and told her, or my mom, to take me to a psychiatrist in my hometown. They told my mom the name of the psychiatrist. So basically, they called my mom and said, I think Viorel is sick, and you should take him to see a psychiatrist. At that time, they drugged me, they poisoned me, they destroyed my brain completely. And of course, I went to the psychiatrist with my mom because I had my brain damaged. I did not realize what I was doing. So basically, I was in a state of trance. Like I had a very thick fog on my brain. So basically, I couldn't think. I would have a very bad short-time memory. I was like talking something to someone, and a few minutes later, I would just forget. That's a symptom and a side effect from the directed energy weapons, microwave weapons. Okay, so after they drugged me, poisoned me, almost completely destroyed my brain, one of my former friends told me, the same man, what I started with this presentation, and I quote, "Man, you are paranoid schizophrenic. You don't know what you if you don't know what to tell to the psychiatrist, I will come with you and tell her myself. And I was like, okay, so that's why I put with thread. Listen to this. First, I did not tell him that I am going to see a psychiatrist. Second, I did not tell him anything that could have gave him any clues that I might be schizophrenic. And three, and the most important part is, a few months later, I spoke with my brother. And I asked him, how do you know the psychiatrist? I mean, the person you sent me to. And his answer was, I did not call mom, and I did not tell her anything about any psychiatrist.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so yeah. What happened then a few months ago? How can I go back in time and fix what happened? And having all these experiences and having all these contradictions and knowing that I'm not crazy actually put me on the way and in few very deep rabbit holes. And that's why I wrote the book. So basically, I was once to that psychiatrist. And on the second time, when I went there, basically my whole research started with a simple question. Mind reading technologies. I Googled that and I came across GangStalking.
Mm-hmm.
I came across the video, which is entitled GangStalking Program Explained. So basically, I was sitting in the waiting room to go see the psychiatrist for the second time while I was watching this video. And it was like everything started to come together. So I was like, okay, great, fantastic. And I just basically stood up and I just left. I just walked out the door. I was with my father. My father asked me, well, what happened? I was like, come, I don't need a psychiatrist anymore. And I went home, and the very deep rabbit holes that I went through,
sure.
That's how it all started. I was like, okay, this is happening to me. So I need to look into it. And I did so until I figured it all out. So yeah, I put it here I just took a bit of information note. Like, I was not diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic because of my second visit, just what I said. Okay. Why I did presented Brian Cochran's video? Because, as you can remember what he just said, he worked for a private contractor, for a security firm, right? So he's not government. But these private contractors are all reporting to the government, which I'm going to explain in this part here, this slide. So back to GangStalking program. Why I decided to call it GangStalking? Because everybody calls it that way. If I would have made my book and entitled it Sentient World Simulation, nobody would have known what I'm talking about. So basically, this program is not called GangStalking by the government. It has all sorts of names. As you heard in the video, one of the names is called Sentient World Simulation. Okay, back here, and back to the private contractors. There is a missing link, because people say, I'm being gangstalked and harassed by homeless people. I'm being gangstalked by religious groups. I'm being gangstalked by neighbors. I'm sure those people are not government. But this is the connection which I'm going to explain now. This is how it works. The Zionists, which are the Kabbalist Illuminati, write the script. So basically what GangStalking is the psychological tactics explained in the first part, combined with the mind control tactics explained in the second part with the videos. So far, so good. So the Zionists are writing the plans. The plans are then passed to the Freemasons. Freemasons are all over the world, in every country, in every major city. So basically, they are the right hand of the Illuminati. They are basically the same entity, if you can call it that. The Freemasons are infiltrated, or if you want, placed into all positions of power in every branch of the government, banking, and major industries. The Freemasons also control the mafia. Short idea. The whole British Empire got rich by exporting opiates to Asia. Mm-hmm. So basically, they control the drug trafficking, human trafficking, drug trade, gun trade, and the dark web. The dark web was created by the army to be used as an anonymous communication source for army and for the secret services. It got populated, and mainly by them. When I mean them, I mean the Freemasons. And what you can find on the dark web, it's what I just mentioned here: human trafficking, drug trades, guns, pedophilia, and their hobbies, Freemasonic hobbies, if you can call it that way, and sources of income. So they control all the important aspects of our lives. Going back to the private security firms, many of these private security firms are founded by former army employees, former FBI and CIA. This technology is classified. Just a random homeless person or a random gangster, if you want to call it that way, can't access this type of technologies. These type of technologies are passed to them from their higher-ups. In some countries, the law forbids former army and secret services employees to own such companies because they already have the connection that they might influence certain things. But they do own them and control them from behind the scenes. They open the company in someone else's name, like private security firms, especially those are like the main companies involved. And they put it in someone else's name, a cousin, a friend, a son-in-law, etc. That's how they all know each other and collaborate with each other worldwide. They are all Freemasons. It's a big club, and we ain't in it, to quote George Carlin, a comedian. Okay, so this is the missing link that can't be seen by the general public. That's where people are getting confused. Like as I explained at the beginning, is the homeless, is the neighbor, is this and that, is the government. Everybody's arguing and nobody could figure it out what's going on. This is what's going on. They think that they have figured everything out and can stay undetected. I'm talking about the private contractors and the so-called mafia. Basically what I just explained. Okay, this is important again. Talking about the same private contractors which are connected with the government. And I will give you an example. Let's say I would say that I'm being targeted by gangsters, like a group of criminals. But in my case, one small incident happened. I had a fraud on my bank account. And I called the Cyber Police in Romania and I said, listen, I think my device is hacked. I want you guys to scan my device and find out who hacked my device. Because they are the software and the police has it, they can scan the device, see what kind of malware or spyware it's installed in the device, and they can track the email address and so on and so forth. You know what they told me? They said to me, you should just reset your phone to factory settings. So basically, the Cyber Police encouraged me to delete evidence. Okay, with that being said, let's proceed forward. So let's clarify one important aspect of this program. Human experimentation is carried out by the government via fusion centers. Targeted individuals probably heard about fusion centers. These are like huge control centers. Like if you saw last NASA moon landing, all those people with all those computers. So it looks something similar. And by private contractors All data is collected and analyzed by the government. Something we should all be worried about. And now I'm talking about these private firms. This is what these private contractors do to make extra money, because they get away with whatever they want. So they advertise their services as private investigators for hire, life-ruining services, reputation damage, revenge for hire, murder for hire, monitor a cheating spouse, sell the private life of targeted individuals online to subscribers, like a voyeuristic way to make money. Right. Corporate espionage, excuse my pronunciation, and intellectual property theft. On this one, intellectual property theft, I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Okay, let's start with this. Why did I put these numbers here? Basically, in my case, this is how it started, as a revenge. So what happened? I was married, and it was a big party at one of my friends' houses. And I invited my manager to join us, because I was at that time living in London, and he wasn't from London. So he was basically alone in London. So I was like, dude, if you want, you can come to a party, because it's not like a private party. It's more like, like an open party. So if you want to just, it's Friday and you can just join us. Don't stay alone in London. Okay, he did join us. And after the party was over, we went home to my place. And in the morning, while I was sleeping, he was sleeping with my wife. My wife was, I don't want to say the word. Okay, I'm not complaining. Why I said revenge? At my wife's sister's wedding, I dumped her. So basically, it was like a payback, I played the way she played. You humiliate me in front of all my friends, I'm going to humiliate you in front of all your relatives.
Right.
Her sister got married with a Freemason. So basically, I dumped her at a Freemason's wedding. I mean, I know. Play with me, I'll play with you. And then this happened. Number 2, reputation. Like I explained, everything started to crumble. Life ruining all my relationships, all my business opportunities, everything. Murder from hire. They tried to kill me like countless times. And then intellectual property theft. I was young. I was only 25 at the time, more or less, 1 or 2 years difference. I had all my life in front of me. So I was basically trying to get out of the poverty. And as you will see in the next part, what they stole from me, those were all my plans. So basically, after I divorced, I had all my time for myself. I was like, okay, I'm not going to get into any relationship. I'm going to put my life in order first, and then, relationship later. I had a long relationship, so I'll take a break. Why I'm saying this, private contractors again. Not only important people can become targeted individuals. Smart people can become targeted individuals, because these private contractors also use their services as all of this, plus stealing. They call themselves the Empire of Thieves. You will see the next video, a part of it, and then I'll explain more. Let's just go to the next slide.
There are way too many victims around the world. I overheard a conversation where the Freemasons have said that they forced a businessman to give them his business, a business worth way over $300,000. This is me and this is my book. I will offer my book for free, as a PDF, only on this video. The link will be in the description. This is what they stole from me. 1. A blueprint for a free energy generator. They hired every single person that I tried to hire to work for me. 2. Aquaponics business plans. 3. Vertical farming business plans. 4. Permaculture design drawings and resources. 5. Organic cleaning products recipes. 6. Healthy eating recipes. and fresh juice recipes enough to open a restaurant. 7. They have opened a healthy eating street food stall in Aarhus, Denmark, with my recipes, in the exact spot where I was planning to. 8. Travel website. 9. Over 40,000 ebooks. 10. Agro-tourism plans and ideas. 11. Water desalination plant business plan. 12. Vertical CO2 city pollution filter. 13. And countless other ideas and business plans. Long story short. At first, they stole from me and tried to kill me. After a few failed murder attempts on my life, they offered me money to join them. Before they offered me money to join them, they told everyone that I was trying to kill them, that I was sleeping with their wife /s, that I was gay, that I owned them money, that I stole from them, etc. If all of what they were saying about me was true, they wouldn't /t have offered me money to join them. I guess that nobody wants a bad person in their group. They ruined my life because I refused to collaborate with them, and I was exposing all of their wrongdoings.
Yeah, so basically after a few murder attempts, they tried to pay me to join us. Yeah, I know this presentation takes a bit of time, but trust me, it's all connected, and I'm not talking only about me. I'm talking about others, as you can see these pictures. So targeted individuals with similar cases to mine. I will talk about these first two targeted individuals, Frank Tufano and Harald Kautvela. I was in two similar things, like these two people are. Tufano is a YouTuber. As you can see on his body, he looks pretty good. He's into healthy eating, organic food, organic farming, educating the people about, basically he's trying to make a living out of his hobbies, his passion. And he's educating the public about health in a short sentence. Harald is into free energy. Let's start with Frank Tufano. They are doing the same thing to me like they are doing to this guy here. Stealing all his work, basically, everything he's saying, they are plagiarizing what he's saying and adding that to certain products to make money, to sell products, while they are trying to discredit him, to make him look bad. The other person, Harald, he's into free energy. One of his interviews, he's saying that every single person who's into free energy, who was working with him, is either dead, incarcerated, homeless, and helpless, and he's still standing and still educating the public about targeted individuals and about mind control weapons. The next one, Lars. He's from Denmark. I have two things in common with this person. One, they stole from him. When I say them or they, I refer to the Freemasons. I will just say Freemasons, not mention the rest of them. We all know they are the same people. So basically, he applied for a job to the secret services in Denmark. His targeting started. They stole he's an audio engineer, if I'm not mistaken. And he was working on a project for himself to build a microphone. They stole that microphone from him, and that microphone was worth probably a few millions. The second thing I have in common with him, the secret services. I know someone, we were pretty good friends, who worked for the secret services. Why I say this? I'm going to tell you a short story, very short story. I was drinking with this guy who was working for the secret services. Few weeks before he gave me clues that I know what I'm doing, we were drinking, we were having a party, and At the end of the night, before we went home, he said to me, let's go grab a snack, like a fast food or something. I was like, okay, let's go. And from the place where we were to the place where we were going to the fast food was like 10, 15 minutes cab ride. So basically, I blacked out that journey from the place where he said, let's go grab a snack, and I said, let's do it, to the place where we entered into the fast food. So basically, I was blacked out. I don't know if he gave me some drugs or something. When I drink, I don't black out for 10 minutes. I either black out and I wake up the next day, but I don't black out for 10 minutes. A few days later, he started giving me hints about what I was planning to do, like a free energy generator. That's why I mentioned secret services.
Mm.
So it's bad. You see Dave Chappelle here. You may ask, what is Dave Chappelle doing here? You know him. I'm sure you do.
Yep.
He's a comedian. He's brilliant. I mean, him and George Carlin is the best, on my personal opinion. They're the best comedians of like all times in US. Dave Chappelle was offered a $50 million contract for a show. He refused. And then he went to Africa for a few weeks to clear his mind. He came back to US and Oprah interviewed him. And he said, I didn't refuse the money. And it's not that I don't want the money. I still want the money. But I don't like the way they placed themselves. I mean, he said, I know I'm not crazy. When I hear people talking about me and with me about me, and I hear people repeating the same things, I know I'm not crazy. So I'm not going to accept the amount of money and then to accept and allow those people to drive me crazy. So basically what he was saying, in other words, as everybody knows, he didn't sold his soul, as is known in the Hollywood.
Right.
The next one, another actor, Steven Schellenberg. Well, I do apologize to these people if I pronounce their names wrong. He's another actor. He's had a very good life. He was rich. He had mansions. He had money. He had fame. He had contracts in Hollywood. Everything was going fine until the day someone stole some show ideas from him and decided to ruin his life. So basically, I take your idea and pretty much I'll destroy you and I take credit for your work. That's what these people do. That's why I'm concerned about this mind control thing. It's not just the simple fact that, okay, we are going to be experimented on, fine. They are reading our energy fields. They are connecting us to a computer. If we are going to be bad people, they are going to punish us. I don't have nothing against that. Okay, fine. If that's the plan for the future, I'm in it. What I'm against is the loss of privacy and the killing of innocent and creative people. All these people here that I'm presenting are brilliant people. This guy here, Frank, is trying to make the world a better place, to teach people to live healthy. This guy, Harold, here, is trying to free the world from slavery and offer the people free energy. This guy here, Lars, was just trying to improve the product. Dave Chappelle here is making us all laugh. This next one, Steven, is another brilliant actor, ruined and destroyed by these people. This is what I am against. I will add something. Even the president of Turkey was put to some of these psychological warfare tactics in 2017. I read online about what happened in Turkey in 2017. And I was a bit, I had quite a few questions. And I was in Netherlands at the time. I used to go to the gym. And in the sauna, in the gym, I met a Freemason. And we were talking about, politics and general stuff. And I didn't know he was a Freemason. I just realized after I spoke to him. He said to me, "Do you know that what's happening in Turkey now?" I said, "Yeah, it's pretty bad for the people especially." And he said to me, "Well, the president wants too much power." Reading about the president, he was using the same tactics, same techniques as they use on all targeted individuals and Dave Chappelle. Tried to accuse him of mental illness. Do you see the problem?
Right.
All the good people are getting destroyed by a bunch of parasites. I can't call them otherwise. Because these people aren't smart. Because if these people would be smart, imagine smart people having access to this type of technology. We would have lived in a different world. But because stupid people have access to this type of technologies, and everything is passed from generation to generation to keep the power to themselves, is the world in the state it is today.
Right.
Okay. One last bit. I'm going to make this quick.
Okay.
Then we can have a chat. NATO, the brilliant organization who's going to save the world. Yeah, I put my book cover next to a presentation made by NATO in 2020. So they called this presentation cognitive warfare, which I call it psychological warfare. I called my book The Battle for the Brain. They called it A Battle for the Brain. I designed the cover of the book because I did everything myself. I can't hire anyone, not when I'm sabotaged. They did, you'll see in the next slide, the cover for their report in the same way. Mm-hmm. I wrote my book in January. I was in Turkey in 2020. I had a long holiday in Turkey, so only when I have long holidays I have time to work on this kind of thing. And I designed this, so they designed this in June and November 2020. Francois is holding a short presentation, which I'll explain later, in which he's presenting all the points, what psychological or cognitive warfare, as they call them, covers. His definition is the art of using technologies to alter the cognition of the human targets. His conclusion. The brain is under attack. Technology, hyperconnectivity, and profusion of data makes the human the main vulnerability. I read that completely, I messed it up. Technology, hyperconnectivity, and profusion of data make the human the main vulnerability. Okay, that sounds better. Trust, in particular among allies, is the target. NBIC plus cognitive technologies pave the way to further manipulation of the brain. What's NBIC? I didn't know, so I had to Google it, and I added it here. So what nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, cognitive science mean? Nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive science, NBIC, are a set of technologies sometimes referred as converging technologies for improving human performance. They are considered to be interrelated fields of study that often overlap and impact each other. We are the contested domain. Our major concern is to protect our decision-making process. Basically, right. We can, manipulate our thoughts and everything. So this is like a short note, and I just put it here. This is basically the thumbnail, and this is the name of the YouTube video in which NATO Canada is inviting all these experts to talk about mind control technologies and the challenges. So in the first part of the video, Francois, I'm not going to pronounce the second name because I can't, the manager of NATO Innovation Hub in Northern Virginia, is showing a PowerPoint presentation on cognitive warfare. as they call it, explaining what the technology can do. But basically, it's a very brief introduction to mind control technologies, their risks and capabilities. So I put it here with red. NATO is finally admitting that mind control technologies are real and functional. That happens in October 2020, a bit late. In the second part of the video, all of the experts, I just put experts in, are talking a lot of something about nothing. So basically, NATO has psychological warfare training manuals. They are developing these technologies, and in 2020, they are coming out saying that, you know, we are going to found a study to see what it's all about. I mean, really, it's like the thief stealing from you and then coming back later saying, I'm going to help you find who did it.
Right.
Okay, let's go further. So I've decided to add this to today's presentation, the NATO part, because, you know, first, my book contains the same information on psychological warfare as NATO's sponsored study from 2020 on cognitive warfare. I am not saying that the titles and the cover image are plagiarizing my work, my book. I'm glad to see that I'm right again. I've called this whole thing for what it is. I've said it's the battle for your brain. They said a battle for the brain. I call it psychological warfare. They call it cognitive warfare. And here is what I said before. My book was published in February. They sponsored the study in June, November. And here is what I said again. They have more than one training manual. So this is the last part. I didn't say it. When their mistakes and crimes are going too far, they are getting too much exposure, basically. This is how they are showing the general public that they care and they are doing something about it while doing nothing about it. You see where I'm coming from?
Sure.
We are sponsoring an innovation. We are going to do that. People are going to we are going to have selected candidates. They are going to talk about it, a lot of nothing, basically. In the second part of their presentation are saying our enemy is doing it, we have to do it too. Yes.
Right.
The old divide and conquer story. Our enemy did it, not us. As you can see here, all the Ashkenazi Jews with all the presidents, they are all in the same club. When they are talking about their enemy, we are their enemies, not the heads of the states or the politicians. It's not China versus US or Putin versus Ukraine, because it's a big club. Putin is fighting Ukraine. We are paying for their, the rise of the prices. Look at the petrol at this point. I'm not going into politics. I'm just giving you an example. It's all fake. And the last point of this presentation, questions. 1. Okay, why does the government allow this to happen? Government basically is them. When I say government, is saying everyone gets paid to stay away from it, cover it, or be part of it. Psychiatry industry makes money from the consultation of the victims and the creation of new mental illnesses. Big Pharma is selling drugs. Military industrial complex is developing and testing new mind control technology. Military industrial complex, NATO. The police are getting paid to be part of it or cover it. Basically, the police officers are involved in it. The police department is having annual budget increase if the criminality rate is increasing in their area. Common sense. More criminals, we need more people, we need money. The Freemasons are having a lot of fun and are making a lot of money by selling the lives of targeted individuals online. this is a very lucrative and profitable business. Stealing from people, ruining them, and making a show out of it. The Freemasons are getting rid of their competition and the people that they don't like me, in my case. According to the slave masters, the world is overpopulated. They are working on a depopulation agenda as we speak, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. I'm not going in there yet. No, I can't pronounce that word even if I wrote it. Killing people is not a problem today. We are too many anyways. When I say we, I'm talking about you and me and the general public. And the last question is this. And I want everyone to think about it. How can we protect ourselves when the people who are supposed to protect us, the police, secret services, the army, health industry, big pharma, psychiatric industry, so on and so forth, are working together to kill us? One answer, short answer, I guess that there isn't much that we can do. And another answer, which is also right, they kill us because we allow them to. And this is the end of the presentation. I do apologize for taking so long, but I think I covered a few important aspects.
Yeah.
And I kind of put it in such a way to make sense for, general public, not just for targeted individuals.
Well, it certainly is fascinating. I mean, first of all, the fact I think that this seems to be it's not just a government operation. I mean, it's not just one entity that's doing this or targeting individuals on this level, but it seems to be this cartel behind the scenes, like you're talking about, connected to Freemasonry, maybe other secret societies, that turned it into a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just like the CIA or the American government is involved in this, but it's really happening all over the world, and it seems to be motivated by this larger organization that's working behind the scenes. I mean, that in and of itself is a fascinating conversation to have.
Basically, excuse me to interrupt you, I just want to make a quick point. Basically, is what I said. Are the Zionists at the top, then are the Freemasons at the bottom, and then there are the different branches.
Right.
So basically, that's how it is. From as I see it, and from all my research and all the rabbit holes I've been into for the last 10, 12 years, because I haven't watched TV in 12 years, and I'm into conspiracy theories.
Right.
And watching them and connecting the dots and putting everything together to make sense. As I said, I can't sleep if things don't make sense. So I had to put everything into like a big picture as I made this presentation to make sense for everyone. Because if I say it, or we targeted individuals are saying it as they want us to, we automatically sound crazy because it is designed this way.
Sure. I mean, it was fascinating to hear your story about going to the psychologist. In the book, you actually recommend people just stay away from psychologists if they think that they're being targeted in this way, because you're just going to get sucked into this whole system. You're going to get drugged. You're going to get diagnosed. And this isn't really what's happening to you. You're actually being gang stalked in this organized fashion. So it just makes your problems worse.
You're basically a cattle. A for-profit cattle.
Mm-hmm.
If you can put it that way. I mean, to leave aside all the terms in gang-stalking terms and mind control terms, to put it plainly, that's what it is. I mean, basically, they take you from where you are, they put you in here, they strip you off of everything, and then they dump you. So they are basically, you are cattle, or they are parasites. Another term that can be described as.
Sure.
Criminal organization. whatever else you want. But that's basically what it is. You take a creative person, a smart person, a very productive person, a person who wants what's best for this planet, basically, because as I presented you, all those people want what's best for this planet. They all have grandiose projects in mind to make this world a better place. So you take the people who want to make this world a better place, you strip them of everything, you share amongst yourselves what you can strip that person of. When that person has nothing, you dump them and you carry on. It is what it is, basically. It started as what it started. It progressed as what it progressed. It was the plan to be as what it is. But somewhere along the way, things went wrong. Like very wrong. And that's where we are at the moment. It was something, then it was something else, and then it was something else. And that's what it is today with all these private contractors and all these other groups of people involved.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that really, I think, lends credence to all of this is the technologies and the patents that you describe in the book that we saw some of in the presentation there, where clearly they've been working on this kind of technology for a long time. I mean, that is something that really can't be disputed. This voice-to-skull technology, these ways of uploading and downloading information from and into your brain, the ability to make you have thoughts that don't originate with you. All of these things are technologies that they've been working on now for decades. It's really amazing to think that the amount of money and the amount of time that's gone into it. And these are just the things that we know about. There's so much classified information and technologies that are out there I'm sure we haven't even heard of. It's just phenomenal to understand that so many governments and so many of these intelligence agencies are working on this kind of stuff, but that's clearly provable.
You just read my mind when you said classified. It was the point I wanted to talk about. As far as I know, and I find out through the years, the government, it's like 30 to 50 years ahead.
Right.
Of what we know. I mean, what I have presented and what are people talking about. I'm not saying that a whistleblower who exposed the program is wrong. But what I'm saying is when the technology hits the masses, it was used way before. Their technologies, what are working at now, are way advanced.
Yeah.
They are way ahead of what we are talking about now. And there aren't any ways that we can basically find out what is it all about, because as you saw on NBIC, I think it was, it's spread across way too many sectors. And it all connects into one point. Where is that connected point?
Right.
Is it NASA? Is it NSA? Is it HARP? Is it FBI? Is it CIA? Is it a monastery in Romania somewhere?
Right.
Because sometimes they do that, they hide everything in a place where you just go there, visit, and you think it's ruins, and it actually is like, is in an underground somewhere? They have underground bunkers and stuff. Where is it? What is it? We don't know. But what we know, we can start to protect ourselves from what it is now, at least. Because they are always one step ahead, if you want. But we can always, it's like a dance. They call it a dance, like a tango.
Sure.
1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. So it's like we can fight them or work against them. I don't want to use the word fight, so I may sound aggressive. So we can unite and, work against them to protect ourselves. Because basically it's not working, like what I said, against them. It's not working against them to harm them necessarily. but work against them to protect us in a self-defense manner.
Sure.
Like, it's, when I said I became immune to it, I actually did. Well, not completely, because I will give you a short example when I say why I'm not completely immune to it. I'm in Poland. 2 weeks ago, more or less, I rented a place, short-term rent. I came in on Sunday. Nobody was working on Sunday. The people were very nice, because Polish people are very nice. And the agency said, okay, we are going to sort you out so you can, come in on Sunday. I was like, okay, fine, great. There was this person from the agency, this nice girl. She came in, showed me the place and gave me the place. And then she said, a few days later, you should just come into the agency to sign the contract. And the place was a bit, dirty. I may have too high standards when it comes to cleaning. Mm-hmm. But long story short, while I was talking to the girl about the cleaning stuff, I said to her, I'm not into dirty places. I can't stand dirty places. If I would have lived, if I have to live in a dirty place for too long, probably I would commit suicide. And then I stopped, like, wait, what? I would never commit suicide. I mean, I would never do that for a dirty place if I can clean it. Excuse my French.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then I realized, oops, it's that. But in that moment, how do I explain to that girl in the office that is not me saying that I'm going to commit suicide? That is the technology. As I said, they are ruining relationships. So every time you meet a new person, an important thing, like a rent, a job, a girlfriend, or a potential business partner, they are always using this technology. Even if I'm immune to a certain degree, they still have control. Because as you speak, you are not thinking what you're speaking. You are kind of know what you're going to say. And then this technology, as the video explained, they can manipulate thoughts and speech. So they basically make you say stupid stuff. So I didn't say anything. So I just said, okay, I just carry on the conversation in a different, change the subject. I didn't start explaining to her. I'm explaining to you why I'm not like 100% immune to it, but in a like a very large aspect of it, I'm immune.
Right, you've gotten used to.
I'm going to make a point to the immunity. What I find out talking to schizophrenics, because I joined schizophrenia groups, when the voices start, or when the thoughts are running crazy in someone's head, like they can't control their thoughts, before that, it's a ringing in their ears, like in many cases. So basically, the ringing in the ears is when they are hitting you with this frequency. They are connecting your brain to the computer before they can introduce whatever it is they are going to introduce. Voices, music, crazy thoughts, whatever. So basically, when that ringing starts, if you can identify it and say, yes, it's them, and say, like, just the simple fact that you identified the ringing in the ear, and say, okay, it's them. I'm not going to let them control me.
Right.
I'm going to repeat a certain word a few times. I'm going to play some music, or I'm going to start doing something that distracts me from that connection, like break the connection, basically. And then do something for a short period of time, like until the ringing goes. Be focused for, let's say, 20, 30 minutes, painting, singing, dancing, washing dishes, cooking, thinking at something else other than you were talking on in that same moment. Let's say you were talking about flowers, you were thinking about flowers, think about helicopters, something unrelated. So you break that connection. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating that you've had to get used to this and figure out these techniques to
you need to experience the things and try things too.
Right. Have you have you found other targeted individuals that you've spoken with? Do you participate in a group, or and how widespread? How many other people do you think this is affecting right now?
It's hard to say, because there is a very, very small percentage of people who know what GangStalking is, what mind control is.
Yeah.
There are a very large number of people who are wrongly diagnosed as schizophrenics. They are imprisoned. There are many who kill, just lose it and start killing people, and then they say the government is controlling their brains, and end up in prisons, end up in mental institutions. There are many end up homeless. Many end up addicted to drugs. As I gave you the example, I had opiates in my system without taking opiates. So basically, I could have become addicted, ruined my life. I mean, them ruining my life, but with my kind of help, like collaboration, like manipulating me into. Because if they put some drugs into you, then you basically lose control over time. So it's hard to estimate how many targeted individuals are. According to some whistleblowers, and according to some statistics, 1% of the entire human population is suffering from schizophrenia. Out of that 1% suffering from schizophrenia, I would say 80 to 90% of them are targeted individuals. No. So let's add the homeless, add all that. So my estimates would be like 2 to 3% of the entire human population are the victim of this type of technology and tactics and techniques. My estimates. I might be wrong, I might be close to the truth. Sometimes, most of the time I'm kind of close to the truth. I can't, because I'm one-man army, I can't do all the work. And being a truck driver, I'm working 12 to 15 hours every day.
Right.
I have very little time to work on these things. I do work when I have some spare time during the weekends, when I have long holidays, but I can't put all the numbers together. But according to my estimates, 2 to 3%, I'm like 90% sure that they are victim of this technology and these tactics, techniques, and of these people.
Well, sounds good, Viorel. I'm afraid we're running out of time here. I'm going to have to take off. But I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story and sharing your interpretation of what's been going on. It seems like it's been a pretty long haul for you. If you have anything that you want to say in conclusion, and let people know where they can find your YouTube channel, maybe your Facebook page, where people can find out more.
Yeah, my conclusion is the rabbit hole is deep. We are in trouble, too many of us. My book, I'm not bragging or trying to get sales. My book is not a matter of I might need it. It's a matter of I should read it and protect myself for what's coming. And that was my short conclusion. Where people can find me, they can find me on my YouTube channel. This is the name of my YouTube channel. GangStalking, Attention, Awareness.
Okay.
Can you read it?
Yep.
The A has 2 A's. I know it's a spelling mistake, but it's, intentional spelling mistake. My page, it's Viorel G.Serb, where you contacted me. They can like my page and then send me a private message. I will try to answer to all of them. I would say one thing. If anyone wants to contact me, please don't just contact me, say, hi, how you doing? Because I don't have time for chats. If you are a targeted individual or you want to learn more about the subject, you should just contact me and ask a specific question. I have a video for every question almost, or I have a sort of resource article or a website or something. So if anyone would want to learn more, I will be glad to answer all the questions and share the information related to that specific question. My name is Viorel Serb, like my name on the book. If you can see it, you can find me on Facebook. What I would suggest, because why I'd like to make this public is to educate the public. So I would encourage people to join my group, share specific questions they have. I will answer the same way I said I will answer into my page, with links, with resources. We can talk about it, and more people can educate themselves. If I go private with each one of them, like each person, I will spend too much time. If someone has a specific question and I offer the resources, somebody else can click that link or open that PDF and watch the resources and learn. So I like to make it public. That's why I encourage people to join my group. It's GangStalking, attention, awareness. Attention has 2 A's, and between attention and awareness is no space. That's my Facebook group. Join my group and ask questions. I will be more than glad to answer and share resources and educate and help people.
Well, sounds good, Viorel. Viorel, thank you for coming on the show once again. I've heard so many stories about targeted individuals. I know it's a really rough situation to be in. So I appreciate the fact that you came on the show and you let people know about your experience and what your research has shown you. I'll make sure and put this contact information in the show notes. If you have questions, you can contact him and get in touch. If you're a targeted individual or you think you are, you can have a conversation with him.
One more thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
This last thing, I will share with you a link to Google Drive where anyone who can't afford to buy my book can read it for free. And also, anyone who wants to buy my book, they can find it on Google or they can find it on Amazon. Basically, it's on all major platforms, but these are the 2 main ones. They can find it in any country on these 2 platforms, Google and Amazon. Just type in my name, Viorel Serb, or type in The Battle for Your Brain, and the book will come up.
Sounds good.
I will also show the link for the free book. I will share it with you, and you can add it into the description and on the notes.
Will do.
So people who can't afford to buy it or just don't want to buy it, they want to read it for free. The point is to educate the public, not to get rich, because I probably won't. So that's my last.
All right. Thing. Well, sounds good. And I want to thank everybody who's been listening. Let you know that you've been listening to The Shift. I'm your host, Doug McKenty. You can follow me on Facebook, my personal page, Doug McKenty, or The Shift with Doug McKenty Facebook page as well. I'm on Twitter at DMcKenty. And my stuff is it's up on YouTube, Rockfin, Odyssey, and I'm on SoundCloud if you want to listen to it, or you can go to my website, www.theshiftnow.com, and find everything there. So thanks again for coming on the show, Viorel, and thank you everybody for listening. I'll keep looking into this whole targeted individual thing, and especially the mind control and the manipulation that's been going on. It goes deeper than a lot of people understand or realize, and it's more widespread. So thanks again for sharing your story, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll
thank you for the opportunity.
Yep, you bet. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there was my conversation with Viorel Serb, a targeted individual. This is a difficult topic to discuss and have conversation about. I approached Viorel because he had written the book, The Battle for Your Mind, and I was wanting to dive deeper into the different forms of psychological warfare. I've actually been a little bit overwhelmed lately just about the quantity and quality of the propaganda I feel like we're getting, especially here in the United States, I think in Europe as well. So I just kind of wanted to expand my coverage of this concept of psychological warfare, what it is, what it means. And this targeted individual thing has been on my radar for quite some time. Many of you have probably heard about it, but it's such an interesting phenomenon that so many people start saying that they are hearing voices in their heads, that they're having strange feelings, highs and lows and emotions that don't make sense, and especially being targeted by a variety of people, sometimes people that they've known for a long time. Suddenly this consistent and constant harassment starts to happen to them. Stories about people that will come to their house early in the morning and leave a coffee cup on the car, but do it every morning over and over again. Hearing strange sounds in your house, or starting to have a feeling that you're under constant surveillance. All of these characteristics of what is known as gang stalking over time starts to drive somebody seriously crazy. They get super stressed out, and they have symptoms of someone who's suffering from a paranoid personality disorder or schizophrenia even. Viorel actually recommends, if you think that you've been a targeted individual, that this is happening to you on purpose, that you don't go to the psychologist, because therapists will really start to just tell you that you're a crazy person and start giving you a lot of mind-altering drugs. Viorel had the story about never having not taken any kind of illegal substances, but taking a drug test and finding that somehow he had drugs in his system. And so there appear to be all of these different ways that certain individuals are getting targeted. And again, this is such a difficult thing to believe, but once you get online, you start looking into it, you start seeing that many, many people have been affected in this way. And that it may well be an organized type of systematic psychological abuse on particular individuals, whether or not it's because you have dissenting point of views, maybe you just pissed off somebody who's well connected into this kind of system. It's just it's an interesting topic, and so I was happy to cover it. Viorel has his own point of view as someone who's been targeted. I'd like in the future to, there have been multiple books written by experts on this topic that haven't been afflicted, but have observed many, many people who have been afflicted. And so I'll try to arrange an interview with one of these people. I do just want to say that I did not know that his PowerPoint was going to be quite that long, so I appreciate it if you listened to the whole thing. I didn't really even realize he was going to do that until we started talking, and then I thought it was going to be 15 minutes or so of the conversation, and it turned out to be most of the interview. So, you know, I hope that you still gained something from his perspective. I wish there had been a little bit more of a back and forth conversation, but we were able to get to that towards the end. And I definitely do appreciate getting his point of view as someone who has been personally targeted, just to hear what the world is like from their point of view. When you do look into this phenomenon, you find that there are thousands and thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands, potentially more, who are claiming to have this kind of, be in this kind of situation. And again, it seems so strange that like the world would turn on them. They talk about street theater. They're walking down the street. Suddenly they'll hear their name, and a couple of people will be, you know, engaging in some kind of conversation about them that they don't even know about. It becomes this harassment from strangers, even from sometimes from people that you know who have somehow been influenced. It reminds me of an emotionally abusive relationship, but extended into the entire community or the entire culture that surrounds you, until you just get essentially a post-traumatic stress reaction, constantly stressed out, constantly looking over your shoulder. And then slowly over time, it has a seriously detrimental effect on your psychological and mental health. So it was good to get his perspective on this. I did want to take just a second to say that he did kind of bring up the Jewish question. He tended to link the history back to the Ashkenazi Jewish mafia, which some people tend to do. In my view, the root causes of these kinds of situations potentially this global cartel that's responsible for all of these things can't be traced back to just one particular group, but instead many cartels, many mafia groups working together. And so I don't particularly generally have on the program someone who specifically targets one particular group. And so I just wanted to make that clear, and also say that I went ahead and kept all of Viorel's perspectives in the show. I do value his point of view, and he has the right to freedom of speech just like everyone else. But I just wanted to kind of clarify my particular point of view on this program, and I did not realize that that was going to come up at all as part of this conversation. So we'll just we can leave it at that. The part of all of this that really, in terms of the targeted individual, the overall concept of it, whether it's real or not, the part of it that really kind of gets to me are the patents. And in his book, Viorel does list lots of these specific patents about things like voice-to-skull technology. Also, this came up in my first interview with Alana Freeland, who's done a lot of research into these kinds of technologies, these ultra-low frequency microwave technologies. And the government, lo and behold, has been working on this for decades to figure out how to manipulate people's minds and even upload and download your thoughts and be able to project voices into your skull. This voice-to-skull technology. So as challenging as it is for the average person to understand or believe that this could possibly be happening, the fact of the matter is that people are working on this, and they've been working on this for a long time. And that's what provides for me the most credence to the notion that this is going on, that somehow there is this psychological operation that's utilizing these technologies that they have clearly been working on, and a lot of people now under the influence of this kind of psychological manipulation. So I was glad to have this. Again, I think this is going to be more of an introduction to this concept. I'd like to have some more people on that have written books about interviews with multiple people that have been affected, and maybe then we can go into a deeper conversation about the phenomena in general. But this, as an introduction, was to get you to see how Viorel himself has been affected and what's been going on in his life over the course of the last 10-12 years as he's been enduring this psychological manipulation. So I hope you appreciated his point of view. I did learn quite a bit just from his own personal experience, and so I appreciated the conversation for that. All right, and I'll let you all know that you can find his stuff, especially if you feel like you might be a victim of this kind of abuse. He would be someone that you can get in touch with, that you can talk to. A lot of these people, they just start thinking that they're crazy, and it takes them even a year or two to see the pattern. And that's kind of one of the most interesting aspects of this whole thing, until they start to realize that this must be an organized, abusive gang-stalking situation, not just a strange coincidence that all of a sudden all of these people started to harass, you know? And so if you feel like you might be a victim of this kind of abuse, you can find Viorel on he's got a Facebook group and a YouTube channel at GangStalking Attention Awareness. Attention is spelled with 2 A's. I think the Facebook group, actually, it's got over almost 2,000 members, so that might be a good place, a good resource if you're concerned that you've been impacted by this kind of behavior. And you can also find his book, The Battle for Your Mind, on Amazon, or you can just Google it and you'll be able to find it there. And he's also on Facebook. He's got a personal page, Viorel G. Serb, so you can find him there. All right, thanks everybody for checking this one out. You can also find my program, The Shift. If you want to find more information about it, go to www.com. www.theshiftnow.com, and you can find lots of free content there. You could subscribe, sign up for the newsletter, subscribe for the feature-length versions of the episodes. I'm on Facebook at Doug McKenty and on Twitter at DMcKenty. And you can find the video versions of each episode on Rockfin, Odyssey, and YouTube, at least for the time being. So thanks everybody for checking this one out. Next week I have a translator of a book called Prostitutes from a German author who was involved in basically the New York Times of Germany for about 20 years. And then he had an epiphany, an awakening about the level of corruption that had been normalized in the press. So I'm looking forward to that conversation because I think we're going to be able to hone in on a lot of the different ways that the mainstream media has been manipulated into just giving us the narrative of the upper classes. He makes it pretty clear in the book, and I think the conversation is going to really help to make it clear just exactly how kind of these subtle forms of soft corruption are how they can manipulate these entire professions. You know, people always ask, well, all the doctors can't be in on the big pharma conspiracy, all the journalists can't be in on it, right? But in fact, it's just that the entire corporate network has been corrupted, and these soft forms of corruption end up basically just influencing people to the point where it's like, yeah, sure, you know, I'll go with the flow. It's going to be good for my career. You get a lot of perks, a lot of prizes. So it explains how these institutions can be corrupted without being overtly connected to any grand conspiracy. So we'll be looking forward to that. That should be coming out in the next couple of days, actually, so stay tuned. All right, thanks everybody for checking this one out, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.